message appears to be Hail Mary, Alpha 1, 10 minutes. Message repeats. Over.
Alpha 1, that's the attack code.
Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of Digital Fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn, and today we're back at it with another standard deck tech straight out of early access for Tarkir Dragonstorm. This one's called Hail Mary. This is a Mardu deck using Mardu Siegebreaker, and the entire deck is designed around trying to take that card and turn it up to 11 and push it to its absolute limits. We have some other crazy new cards in this deck, and some older cards that people might have forgotten about that just work insanely well with the Siegebreaker, and honestly, I think this deck has a ton of potential for the future of Standards, so I'm going to probably keep iterating on it in the future. Before we dig into the deck, make sure you like this video. It helps me get it out to so many more people and helps the channel grow. I would appreciate it so much. Also subscribe if you're new because I have new deck techs dropping from early access every single day. Not to mention the fact that there are a ton of ideas we didn't get to during early access. We're going to hit the ground running as soon as the set launches on Tuesday. We're doing another 12-hour marathon stream on launch day, and we're going to have some crazy, ridiculous brews on the way. Also, catch me live Monday through Friday over on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/quarantinedcapricorn, because if I'm alive and I'm breathing, I'm there and I'm streaming. One last note. I was getting rather sick during the 24-hour marathon stream that I did when I recorded the gameplay and the deck tech breakdown for this deck. So if my voice sounds a little bit wonky and I sound like I'm really out of my gourd a bit, that's probably why. So keep that in mind. But with all that out of the way, let's check out the deck. Alright, so this deck's really rad. This one's called Hail Mary. And the idea is we're trying to go as deep as we can on attack triggers and on ETB triggers because we're trying to build the entire deck basically around Mardu Siegebreaker, a new 4-mana 4/4 in the colors of Mardu. It has Death Touch and Haste, but when it enters, you exile up to one other target creature you control, and then every time the Siegebreaker attacks, you make a copy of that creature that's also tapped and attacking. So you can get some really insane value off hitting just the right creatures with this. We've got a few examples here. First of all, Phyrexian Fleshgorger, a 7-mana 7/5, but you can play it out prototyped as a 3/3 for 3. The thing is, if you exile it with the Siegebreaker, you're making copies of the original creature, not the prototype version whenever you swing, because it only looks at the card that's in exile when it decides what it's going to make a copy of that's tapped and attacking. So once the Fleshgorger's in exile, it's the 7/5 version. You swing in with the Siegebreaker with haste the same turn you exile it on turn 4, and you make a copy that's a 7/5 Menace lifelink that's also swinging in, which is absolutely nuts. But it doesn't stop there, because if they kill the Siegebreaker, you get whatever you exiled back. And you get the full card back, so even though you exiled the prototype version, when your Siegebreaker goes away, you get the full 7/5 Fleshgorger back. So it's almost like it has built-in protection, which is just absolutely insane. There are a ton of crazy cards we can also use with the Siegebreaker, such as 2 copies of Bruised Tarl Roving Rancher, which is a 4-mana 4/3. Oxen you control have double strike. When he enters or attacks, you exile the top card of your library, and if it's a land card, you make a 2/2 Ox creature token. If it isn't, you can cast the card until the end of your next turn. So, if you exile it with the Siegebreaker, excuse me, I've been feeling a bit under the weather throughout all of early access. I apologize if my voice sounds kind of out there. I'm working through it. But if you exile the Bruised Tarl with the Mardu Siegebreaker, you get to get that trigger every single turn, essentially, either getting you card advantage by getting you things that you can play, or just making you 2/2 Ox creature tokens that stick around forever. And as long as you make another Bruised Tarl during combat, if you have other Ox from previous combats that are attacking, they'll pick up that double strike during combat as well, which is really, really nice. We also have 2 copies of Toby Beastie Befriender. This comes into play and makes a 4/4 token that cannot attack or block alone, and as long as you control 4 or more creature tokens you control have flying. So with Toby, if you exile him with the Siegebreaker, every single time you attack with a Siegebreaker, you make a fresh copy of Toby, which is a token, and you make another beast token that's a 4/4. So you get 2 tokens there, and the original token that the Toby made to begin with. So all you need is one other token in play, other than just the original Toby and the Siegebreaker that exiled it, and all of a sudden all of your tokens have flying, which is kind of insane. Not only that, but every time you make a new Toby, it's spitting out a new 4/4 that gets to stay and doesn't have to be sacrificed at end of turn, like most of the tokens that come out of the Siegebreaker, since technically it's the Toby that makes it and not the Siegebreaker that makes it. So you can actually go wide with 4/4 beasts every single turn by exiling the Toby with the Siegebreaker. Super good. We're also using a ton of other cards in this deck that use tokens in particular. So not only are they good with the Siegebreaker, but they're also good with the Toby. One such example is Sanguine Evangelist, a 2/1 with Battle Cry for 1 white and 2. When it enters or dies, you create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. So if you exile it with a Siegebreaker, it's going to make tons of tokens. When you make a new copy on attack, it'll also make a bat, and then when it dies at end of combat, or end of turn rather, you'll make another bat. So that's really good. The Battle Cry buffs up your whole team when you're swinging, and if you've gone wide with tokens and have a Toby out so that they all have flying, that can be absolutely insane. And all of that value, excuse me, gets even crazier when you consider the fact that we're using All Out Assault, an enchantment for 5 mana in the colors of Mardu. All creatures you control get +1/+1 and Death Touch forever, no matter what. It's a bit overcosted for just that, but what really makes the card tick is the fact that when it first enters, on that turn only, if it's your main phase, you get an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase, and you get to untap each creature you control when you next attack. So, all of those attack triggers get to trigger an additional time. Your Mardu Siegebreaker gets to swing twice and make a new token both times. The Bruised Tarl gets to get its triggers both times. The Evangelist Battle Cry trigger gets to trigger twice. It can get absolutely nutty and absurd and just kind of win you games on the spot, but it's really nice that even if it doesn't, your creatures just have +1/+1 and Death Touch forever, so it's not a complete waste. If you don't quite close out the game with this card, it still adds overall value to the board as well. Now let's talk about the 1-drop and 2-drop slots. We've got 1 copy of Skrelv, because if we can get it out early, we can protect our board, most importantly protect our Siegebreaker. We also have 4 copies of Stadium Headliner. It's a 1/1 for 1 with Mobilize 1, so when it attacks, it makes an attacking 1/1 token creature, which is really good with all of our token synergies, such as Toby turning on flying, Sanguine Evangelist's Battle Cry, all that good stuff. But we can also pay 2 and sacrifice this to deal damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature. So one of the really cool things we can do is, if we don't have a better target, we can exile a Stadium Headliner with the Mardu Siegebreaker, and then every time we swing with the Siegebreaker, we make a fresh copy of the Headliner, which is just going to die at end of turn anyway, and then we can just pay 2 and sacrifice it before our opponent declares blockers to just kill their guy that we don't want to block. And we're going to have so many creatures going wide that we're almost always going to be able to kill whatever we want to with that. So the fact that we get removal for 2 mana every single turn off of the Siegebreaker trigger can be pretty bananas. In the 2-drop slot, we're running 4 copies of Invasion of Gobakhan. It's a way to slow down our opponent, mess up their curve, play it onto exile whatever we think they're going to play next, make it cost 2 more, or maybe their removal if we're worried about them killing our Siegebreaker. Get some really good tempo advantage, but also sets up to give us the Light Shield Array. If we could just swing in, and we always have a lot of attackers, flip the Invasion of Gobakhan, we get the Light Shield Array. Now all of our creatures are getting extra counters, and if they do try to kill one of our creatures, we can pop the Light Shield Array to save it. So if Siegebreaker is going to die in combat, we can make sure it's not going to die in combat, which is really, really important. We're also running 3 copies of il-Kor, Sadistic Pilgrim. With all of these tokens that we're spitting out that are constantly dying, if we have an Ellis out, every single time one of those creatures enters, we're gaining life. But more importantly, every single time they die, our opponent is losing a life. So every time we make a token with a Siegebreaker and it has to die at end of combat, we just get to basically drain for 1 with the il-Kor, but it also triggers on the stadium, headliners mobilize, and it triggers off of 𝐁𝐫𝐞𝐳 making tokens, and it triggers off of Sanguine Evangelist. It just gets us so much value, potentially, can help close out the game earlier with a ton of draining, and it's also a nice death touch creature, so if we need to just survive, it can be a good blocker, or it can swing in through a big blocker. We've also got 4 copies of Fear of Missing Out. This is something that in the early game can draw us into the land drops we need, or draw us into our Mardu Siegebreaker, or whatever we might be missing that we need. But if we happen to hit Delirium, which we can do in this deck, it's another thing that can attack and give us an extra combat phase so that we can get all of these triggers in additional time. So I think the deck is pretty wild. I do think there's probably another more evolved version of this deck that we'll probably eventually dig into once the set releases and we've had more time with the cards and more time to figure out exactly what works best with everything. But even for right now, this version of this deck is kind of bananas and gets some pretty crazy wins, so let's check out the games. Alright, we're going to try and make this work. Start with the Nomad Outpost. I don't know what we're going to discard to Fear of Missing Out yet. It's probably either 𝐁𝐫𝐞𝐳 or Sanguine Evangelist. Although maybe keeping the all-out assault is greedy. Let's discard the other Fear. Once we get the 3rd land down, we're not ever going to want to play one of these 2-drops. Lightning Helix. I guess we'll go 𝐁𝐵. We're not going to be able to Concealed Courtyard. Or rather, Siegebreaker because of the Concealed Courtyard. Which is kind of a bummer. But otherwise, we're curving out pretty decently. Attack me. Do it! Our Siegebreaker can't push through. Well, Evangelist. Yeah, no, it's not gonna work. First strike just rocks us. Just completely rocks us. Kind of a bummer because there's actually a lot of work we could put in right now. We'll swing in the air though. Maybe we Siegebreaker, don't attack with it, because if we all out assault we can buff it up and then it can survive combat with the grappler. So maybe we Siegebreaker. hit that. No attacks. And we wait until next turn. I mean, he'll probably have removal for the Siegebreaker, but I think it's our best bet. At the very least, if he kills the Siegebreaker, our Toby comes back and makes another 4/4, which isn't awful. So, we do get value. No blocks. Go get a thing, do a thing. Man. You really don't like me, do you? Oh my god, look at all these all-out assaults. You do whatever you gotta do. And if you didn't, then why would you gotta do? They all got Death Strike now. Or, Death Touch. Eat the fear. Trade with the Siegebreaker. Doesn't want to, but he has to. Do we attack with the Evangelist? He just eats it up. I guess we get the Battle Cry. And then we get a token. Yeah, screw it. We'll do it. Seems pretty good to me. Seems pretty good to me. Bunch of dudes in the air. He needs to kill Toby so that they're on the ground. Alright, later, Ninja. Thanks for the hangs. Coming in hot. Good night. That flying from Toby was... Alright, this looks good. We're gonna keep it. Alright. Stadium headliner. Bandy boy, you're snoring again. You're a big snory boy. Big, huge snory boy. 𝐀𝐫𝐞 coming in. Coming in hot. How dare you? How dare you? Well, you are running out of gas, friend. Most assuredly. So we're gonna do our thing. What you got? That's fine. You're not that cool. Siegebreaker! Are you ready? Let's protect our board, baby. Now you're in a world of hurt. Ley line of the guild pact, gain a bunch of life. Sure. Well, we'll start with this. Discard the Nomad Outpost. Leyline Binding. What would you like to target, sir? Let's get that hexproof popping. Discard the Nomad Outpost. Draw. Play land. Play an Ellis. Ow. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. We got you next turn unless you got something crazy. Can't play the Zergo. Just can't do it. Good night. Good fight. Alright, we're going to try to keep this. Alright, we'll start with the Ellis, since we've got a second one in case they kill it. We really need a land. But I think we just have to get lucky and try to hit one. Split the difference. If we know for sure we're playing Siegebreaker next turn, the Fleshgorger is better. But if we don't get to play the Siegebreaker next turn, I think the Evangelist is better. So we'll kind of split the difference there. Play the Evangelist. And hope that it works out. Hey, Junior, thanks so much for the raid. I'm feeling under the weather, so I apologize if my voice is a little wonky, guys. But we're doing our best. We're doing our best to withstand the might of the almighty dragons that just crapped all over my face. Welcome, my friend. I think I got a shout out manually. Why does Avalan give you good decks and give me crappy decks, Junior? The one he had me play was awful. awful! Oh, you know what? I'm the one who told him to add Zergo and 𝐿-K'𝐳. So he used my deck to make the better version and then gave it to you. I get it. Okay, cool. I ain't mad. It is fine. We need to draw a card here. Really badly. So we're gonna try and do that. Oof. Rough. No tax. Really need that Siegebreaker, man. Yeah, I gave him crap for not using Zergo and 𝐿-K'𝐳. He had a bunch of monocolored dragons. It's like, why aren't you using the best dragon? He's sad. Sad pandas. Gleaming Barrier, huh? Gives you a treasure token. I kind of like the idea of using Gleaming Barrier with Sibsig. That's pretty cool. I think trying to go 3-color with it is a bit ambitious, though. Legend, you're out of your mind. God bless you. Junior, what was your favorite deck all day? Curious. It's almost out, I think. Kind of like what he's doing, but you really have to get the Spinner of Souls out first. Wait, how did this not die? Oh, because he got it back with the Puppeteer. That's smart. I like that.
Let's rock!
Hey, thanks for the follow, Sandwich Man. Appreciate you.
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
No, but I would love to play Wonders of the First, because that game is freaking awesome. But we'll just keep letting Legend combo off. I guess he's using a lot of mana production of any color to offset the fact that he's using a third color, which I think is kind of smart. Trailblazers can make whatever color you need. He's playing these Gleaming Barriers that give you treasure tokens when they die. So that offsets some of maybe not having enough red or whatever the case may be. Look at all these cards, man. How does he have so many cards? Is it the Spinner? Yeah, it's the Spinner that's doing it. That's really smart. You don't necessarily need the Spinner out before the Sibsig, because you can just get it back by playing the Puppeteer. Brings back a 3-drop, and then you start to go off. This is definitely the better version of the deck. It's not as fast as our combo. But when it gets going, it's way more overwhelming board presence. It's almost impossible to lose. And he's still going, man. He's still going. What an absolute madman. The whims of a madman! Let's keep this. How badly do we want to play Stadium Headliner on 1? Bad enough to not play the Evangelist on 3? Yeah, probably. We can play another 2-drop. So, Inspiring Vantage, Stadium Headliner. If we top deck a Siegebreaker, which we didn't, but if we had... I think we probably would have, maybe we wouldn't have played the Outpost. It's tricky. Tricky, tricky, tricky. We got a Narset. Courtyard. Guess we'll just play this out. No tax. We can sack the Headliner next turn if we want to kill the Narset, which is nice. And my dog is snoring again, which is not nice. Hey, Bandit. Could you get that trumpet out of your nose, please? I don't think we want to attack. I think we just kind of want to do this first. This town ain't big enough. Sage of the Skies. Well, let's make that difficult for you. Come on, Siegebreaker. Make my day. Do. Do I attack with everything? No, he's just gonna bounce stuff, right? What's he bouncing? The 𝐀𝐫𝐿 and the Battler? Why the Battler? It's so weird. But sure. Replay the 𝐀𝐫𝐿? Guess we'll hit that. Bandit, you got a trumpet in your nose. That poor pup snores like you wouldn't believe. Dude, this guy's out of his gourd. Out of his gourd. Good gourd. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck techs, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.